Call to order the June 11th meeting of the Cary Town Council. And at this time, I'll recognize Council Member Bella Huang for our ceremonial opening.
We just had a very, very intense work session 10 minutes ago, but now I don't have too much to say, but go Canes tonight. Please join me. To the Pledge of Allegiance.
Well done.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Huang. Go Canes. We have a request to change our agenda tonight. We will be adding a Pride Month, Pride Proclamation under recognitions, reports, and presentations. So I would entertain a motion to adopt the amended agenda.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously, which takes us to what we just added, the Pride Proclamation. And I'll invite our Mayor Pro Tem Lori Bush and Human Relations Inclusive and Diversity Advisory Board Chair Jess McDonald to the podium for the presentation.
Hello. Hi. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
All right, so designating June 2026 as LGBTQIA+ Pride Month in Cary, whereas the month of June is widely recognized as LGBTQ+ Pride Month, a time dedicated to acknowledging, celebrating, and reflecting on the significant impact and contributions of our LGBTQ+ community worldwide. And whereas Cary is dedicated to fostering a diverse, equitable, inclusive, safe, and welcoming workplace, and a community where everyone feels valued, supported, and empowered to be their true selves. Our diversity strengthens us and adds to the vibrant tapestry that makes Cary a wonderful place to live, work, play, and raise a family. And whereas over the years, Cary has shown a commitment by creating the Human Relations, Inclusion, and Diversity Advisory Board, and has furthered its commitment to providing inclusive services to our community with our participation in the Human Rights Campaign Municipal Equality Index. Cary's Human Relations, Inclusion, and Diversity Advisory Board also focuses on improving the quality of life in our community through encouragement of mutual understanding and respect amongst all people in Cary, whether they're living, working, or visiting our town. And whereas our community will celebrate Pride Month in Cary with Pride in the Park, the Pride lighting of the Cary Arts Center, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, it's absolutely beautiful, a Pride mural, which is on the side of the Brew Building, and Pride-themed art cart, art exhibitions, and a book cart, and a pop-up chorus Broadway and theater reading at the Cary Theater, which will also include readings from the LGBTQ plus playwrights. And so, therefore, I, Mayor Pro Tem Lori Bush, on behalf of the mayor and the entire Cary Town Council, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2026 as Pride Month in Cary in celebration of the diversity, unity, and freedom and acceptance, and also reaffirming our support, building on progress towards a better, more inclusive, and more welcoming and safe Cary for all.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Bush, and the entire council for having me back here tonight to accept this Pride Declaration on behalf of our community and my wonderful colleagues on the HRID Advisory Board. It's moments like this that make me very proud to be from Cary. While Pride has always been and will continue to be a month of joyful celebration, my return this year feels a little bit more somber than last, a little bit more closer to the origins of the gay liberation movement. It was a movement started and led by those on the margins, fearless trans women of color like Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, shouting a desperate but empowered cry to be treated with the human dignity and respect that we all deserve. Just last week, Gallup released polling data indicating American support for marriage equality peaked in 2023 and has been declining since. In all of 2024, the ACLU tracked over 500 LGBTQ bills across the country. Halfway through 2026, they are already tracking 530. While Cary and the state of North Carolina have made pride proclamations, whoop, 5 U.S. states have declared June some sort of faith or family month, erroneously believing in a false dichotomy in which we could not celebrate and honor both. It's more important now than ever for municipalities across the country to stand up for each other, to acknowledge that LGBTQ history is American history, that LGBTQ rights are American rights, that LGBTQ stories are American stories and books, and that oppression anywhere means less freedom everywhere. Here in Cary, we are neighbors, we are a community, we celebrate our differences, and we respect the right to live peacefully the way that we choose. Thank you earnestly for leading in this spirit and making this official declaration. May we more than ever make this a walking declaration of our intentional daily choice to be an inclusive community. May we never take our rights for granted and always stand firmly rooted in our values. And in standing up for each other, may we honor the founders of the movement and refuse to let their progress be eroded. Happy Pride. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we will now recognize the town manager for his update.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to thank the council for another good discussion of the proposed fiscal year 2027 budget earlier tonight at the work session. We talked about tax rate, fund balance, cuts, and new revenues, as well as the concept of smoothing, affordability, values, and expectations. So thank you again for your work on the budget this year. That's a great lead up to tonight's second public hearing. And as a reminder for anyone who missed it, the work session was recorded and is available on the town's YouTube channel. State law requires us to have an adopted budget by June 30th. And right now, while you're continuing your work, folks are gathering, I'm told, at the downtown park for the Stanley Cup watch party. Go Canes, as you said. And thanks to parks, police, public works, and so many others who've worked hard to make this party possible. Unlike the meeting and work session, the watch party isn't available on our YouTube channel, but I would like to believe just as many people are watching this as will be watching the Canes, right? And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Russ. We now move to Public Speaks Out. We've included instructions for speaking at this forum online and on the printed agenda. There were 3 options to participate in Public Speaks Out: through written comments, by calling in or by attending here in person tonight. If you are here in person and would like to speak, I would ask that you take a seat in the rows to my right that are now highlighted. Public Speaks Out speakers have 3 minutes each for their comments and may speak on any town-related topic as long as it is not a public hearing, and that's to your advantage. You get more time at a public hearing. The 3-minute time limit will be enforced, not to be rude, but to be fair to all of our speakers. We have a timer on the podium. It'll start off with a green light. When it turns yellow, that means you have 30 seconds remaining to conclude your comments. When it flashes red, your time has expired, and that's the point I will interrupt you. Again, not trying to be rude, but trying to be fair to all of our speakers. I would ask that all speakers please be respectful in their comments and direct those comments to the entire council and not to an individual. I thank everyone in the audience for understanding that this is a business meeting. Please do not applaud, make remarks from your seats, use props, or do anything else that may distract from the meeting. So now is the time for Public Speaks Out. And I'll first call on the clerk to read any written comments and call on any registered speakers.
No written comments, and we had 4 registered speakers. The first one being Pamela Pickney.
Do I need to do anything?
You just start talking and we'll go. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, again. When I was here in April on the 16th, I was talking to you about affordable housing, and I hope that you have considered it. I'm here this evening. I'm Pamela Pinkney, and I am a presidential candidate for the United States of America for 2028. And when I spoke to you on April 16th, I had told you that it is time for a new trajectory to take this nation and our cities and states in another direction. I have been initiated to establish and be the founder and visionary of a Victim of Violence Fund. It is entitled Truth Speaks. Victims of violence do not have adequate funding for attorneys. The prosecutor represents the law, which is in many ways flawed because victims of violence, we ended up with Marcy being dead only for a law to be in place upon her death. The person or the situation that causes the violence has a right to an attorney. A public defender gets the money, is paid by the state or whatever government entity to represent whoever causes the violence. Victims of violence not only do not have adequate funding for attorneys, but victims of violence have to choose between being in the violent setting or being homeless, and they receive labels. I would like for this legislative body to support me in this endeavor because it takes a lot for a victim of violence to speak out. I don't know statistically what your numbers are in Cary or in the state of North Carolina, but I do know that Interact, the police departments, the fire departments, and many others will be glad to give you those statistics because it's time for peace. It's time to stop all of this violence in the name of law and religion. It's time to stop this violence. I have a protection order for myself. And I need this to be addressed. And I need funding for those of us who do choose to speak up and speak out. We don't need to be afraid to come to you. And we would like to have the religious and the political community help us financially and in other ways because we need funding and fair and equal opportunities. Thank you very much. And my information to communicate with me you have, I just sent it to you. And I thank you for being so pleasant. I was looking for Mr. Webster. His mom told me to ask for him when I got here. Robert Webster, I don't know if he's here.
Thank you.
He works for the city.
He's there.
Our next in-person speaker is Mary Innsbrucker.
Hi, I'm Mary Innsbrucker. Good evening, Council, Mayor, and everybody here today. I love living in Cary, and I appreciate all leadership has done to better it. I really do. But when seniors and others are coming to me saying they may lose their homes to taxes, or their tax payment is getting almost as large as their mortgage payment, I felt I had to speak. In fact, these constant tax increases, not only in Cary, but just about everywhere, is one of the reasons I decided to run for NC House. People are struggling to put food on the table and gas in the tank. There's only so much we can take, and I include myself in that. Because although a candidate, first I'm a citizen. And it just needs to stop. And I know you worked hard to try and accomplish that, but part of my plea today is you work a little harder or look a little deeper. To people, just a reminder, there's going to be a constitutional amendment on the November ballot where you, the people, get to decide if you want tax increases or you don't. And I love that because it's of, by, for the people. You get to pick, right? But a side note, do not believe in, I don't believe in fear as a motivator. So I ask folks, please don't fall victim to those who say it's the end of times and all your services will go away. This is about fiscal responsibility. Keeping taxes low is not about a reduction in police or firefighters or education excellence and so much more that I support a lot. In particular here, Fire Chief Cooper and Police Chief Salt. I just want to be careful that we aren't doing things that I'm hearing about, such as the report from the John Locke Foundation that 9 of North Carolina's most populous counties collected nearly $3 billion, with a B, more in property taxes over the last decade than inflation and population growth justified. So I implore this council, I know you've took a fresh look and a second look and a third look, but maybe a fourth, fifth, sixth, I don't know. But please do not move forward with such an extreme tax increase. Thank you for your time. Thank you to all of you here.
Our next in-person speaker is Christina Chandler.
Good evening, members of the council.
Could you move to your left, please? Thank you.
Good evening, members of the council, and to all members and voters of North Carolina, Cary in particular. I was appalled when I saw what the tax increase is scheduled for Cary. But that was dwarfed compared to where some of the money is going that you have authorized. I gave up a sock hop tonight for my civic duty to come down here because I was interested that you funded videos of dancers. If I'd known that, I'd have come down here with my dance shoes and you could have recorded me, and I wouldn't have charged you. But more appalling when I read down the list was the fact that you have also gone into the book publishing business. Now, I have written a book, and I have paid an illustrator to illustrate my book. And when the book is published, not by you, any proceeds are being donated to animal protection organizations. That's what I'm going to do with my money that I am spending. And I don't expect you to reimburse me. Who gets the proceeds from the book that you all published? Both of those, in my opinion, are outrageous. And if taxpayers are required to pay for your, what I would consider frivolous use of our money, I think you need to reevaluate your priorities. Because I've thought about, why would you do that to the taxpayers? And after, like Sherlock Holmes, when you rule out all of the possibilities, whatever remains, as impossible as it may seem, is probably the answer. And the only answer I came up with, and I don't know any of you, but you all must hate me and the taxpayers of Cary. Thank you for your time.
Our next in-person speaker is Deborah Vaughn.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight. I, too, have great concerns about the increase of taxes. My name is Debbie Vaughn, and my husband and I have lived in Lockmere for 36 years. We love living in Cary, and when we moved here, Cary had a small town feel. We enjoyed the simple pleasures of riding bikes in the park, hiking, baseball games, and swim team in our neighborhood. Today, Cary is very different. We drive down through downtown Cary. There's a lot of concrete, there's a lot of development, a lot of parking decks, a lot of people coming into Cary, and I believe they're outside people. And I think they're attracted to the park. The park is wonderful, great design, but it comes at a high cost. It costs about $7 million per year to maintain and staff the Cary Park. This includes events which I believe mostly attract outsiders. We don't really use the park. For our family, I can say that the park was not necessary for our old-fashioned fun. Getting to the proposed tax increase, I did a little study, and for the median value of a Cary home, approximately $649,000, the proposed increase would add about $244 to the annual tax bill. This brings the total estimate bill from $2,206 to $2,450. And I hear a lot of people say, and I hear a lot of young people say, I can't afford to live in Cary. I hear seniors that are concerned about the expense of taxes and what this will look like for them. My husband retired in 1998 and has the same pension since that time. So that has not changed. And there is no possibility of being, grandfathered into taxes or the older tax rate, or to cap the taxes as best as I can explain it. My question for you, with respect, is our tax money being used in a practical and useful way for the citizens of Cary? I can't help but go back and revisit some of the misuse of money. Can you please explain $330,000 spent on a Dancing Queen video? For real? Can you not use a cell phone and do this and illustrate the town council, the town staff, how you're fun, how you work together, but at the expense of $330,000? I don't get it. I volunteer with CAP, which stands for Citizens Assisting Police. I heard firsthand today that some of the officers said, we could use more officers to keep our town safe. I know in previous town council meetings that you have expressed that safety is a priority in Cary. I think it should be. I'm still in shock over the $37,000 that was spent for a councilwoman to earn a master's degree.
I'm sorry.
I'm in shock. Yes, sir.
Time has expired. If you would like to leave your comments with the clerk, she'll make sure we get a copy of them.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
That was all our registered speakers.
If you're here in the audience and would like to speak at Public Speaks Out, now's your opportunity, and I would invite you forward. Anyone to speak at Public Speaks Out?
Yes, you registered for the budget public hearing. I got you for a little bit later on in the meeting.
Seeing no one, I'll close the Public Speaks Out, and we'll move to the consent agenda portion of our meeting. That's item 4. For the benefit of people watching our meeting streaming, I'll take a moment to review the consent agenda items. Please keep in mind that one vote approves all of the items on the consent agenda. On the consent, we have bid award for Upper Briar Creek Sewer Interceptor Rehabilitation Project, Verizon Wireless Equipment Agreement, resolution for new installment purchase debt, and minutes. Would council members like any of these items pulled for discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consented agenda items.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And we now move to public hearings. Same rules apply for public hearings that applied for Public Speaks Out, with one exception. Speakers now have 5 minutes each for their comments. Our first public hearing is the fiscal year 2027 proposed budget. Assistant Town Manager Stacy Teachy will present this item, and then we'll open the public hearing. Council will not take action on this item this evening. Ms. Teachy.
Great. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight for the second of 2 public hearings on the fiscal year 2027 recommended budget. I'll begin by sharing 3 key takeaways related to the fiscal year 2027 budget. This recommended budget is rooted in council and public priority input. It represents the single largest investment in public safety in Cary's history, and it's the first step in instituting a predictable, transparent approach to funding Cary services. The fiscal year 2027 recommended budget totals $573.5 million, which is 12.2% higher than the current year budget. The operating budget makes up $445.9 million of this total, which is 6.1% higher than the current year. The capital budget totals $127.6 million and is 40.7% higher than the current year budget. It is not uncommon to see significant differences year to year in the capital budget, as these funds support infrastructure projects at varying stages of readiness. The recommended budget includes a 3.75 cents tax increase. This is equal to an additional $20 per month for the median assessed value home of $650,000. The solid waste and recycling fee is recommended to increase $2 per month to $28, and utility rates are recommended to increase 4% overall, with the increase applied to the base rate. This results in a $3.08 per month increase for the typical household. This budget reflects council's priorities, the input of our advisory boards, feedback from the community, and the town's biggest needs as identified by town directors and supervisors. The recommended budget includes a historic investment in public safety, with nearly 20% of the total budget directed to public safety investments. It brings funding to new capital investments and reinforces our commitment to employees through the addition of 55 new positions and a focus on compensation through a classification and pay study and restoration of merit increase funding at 5%. The fiscal year 2027 budget also focuses on maintaining the infrastructure that is already in place. 54% of the capital budget supports maintenance projects like street resurfacing, facility maintenance, and water and sewer line rehabilitation. This budget is the first of a 3-year smoothing approach addressing rising operational costs alongside capital investment needs in a predictable and transparent manner. Council has been making steady progress on this budget since January. We've all appreciated this chart together. Here you see the work we've done together between January 8th and May 14th. And that brings us to our second schedule slide, where we are at June 11th and currently in our second of 2 budget public hearings. In addition to the budget open house held in April and 2 budget public hearings, we encourage residents to reach out year-round. via social media, 311, and the public speaks out portion of any council meeting. This input is routinely shared with council through pulse reports and is summarized in each quarterly report. This concludes the staff overview of the fiscal year 2027 recommended budget. Following the public hearing, I am available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Teachy. One question before we go. This is the manager's recommended budget.
This is the manager's recommended budget. That is correct.
Thank you. Just want to make sure everybody was clear.
Yes, sir.
So now's the time for the public hearing on fiscal year 2027 budget, and I'll call on the clerk to read any written comments and call on any registered speakers.
We have 5 written comments and 3 registered speakers. We received the written comments, and these have been emailed to the council prior to the meeting, provided to council upon arrival, and attached to the online agenda. Our first registered speaker is Gil Pagan.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Gil Pagan, and I'm with the High Impact Team, a group of engaged citizens, some of who live in Cary, that are very concerned and angry about your proposal to raise real estate taxes at a time when the Wake County Commissioners went ahead in the face of community opposition and approved a real estate tax increase as well. I went through 5 sections of the recommended budget for fiscal year 2027, and I saw enough from those just to stop right there. I suggest you change the name of the budget document to recommended, from recommended to proposed. I'll tell you why. The areas that I looked at were in order of largest increases to smallest increases requested in spending, and they were: the legal department requested an increase in spend of 300%. Transit requested an increase in spend of 50%. Transportation, an increase in spend of 45%. Town manager's office, an increase in spend of 42%. The 311 center requested an increase in spending of 25%, with a 10% decline in calls projected by 2027 for you. In a time when everyone is hurting, you are asking for more money, when in reality, you should be cutting back like everyone else. Your tax increases, coupled with those of the Wake County Commissioners, are pricing the most vulnerable communities out of their homes. For a council that purports to advocate for the least of these, and for those who don't have a voice, your actions don't match your words. We should ignore what you say and watch what you do. Seniors, blacks, Asians, and my own Hispanic community are being pushed out of Cary because of tax increases. Maybe that's the plan. How is that inclusive? Does that address diversity? No más taxes. No más taxes. Renters of apartments and those who own trailer homes but rent the land underneath will see their rent increase to cover the real estate tax increases that you are proposing. Before asking for we, the people, for more money, I suggest this: ask all department heads with budgetary authority to cut their budgets by 15%. Freeze all hiring for the next 2 years. Do a forensic audit of town finances to identify waste, fraud, abuse, and duplication of services. Look at leases and don't renew some, and move needed staff to existing offices to consolidate operations. Freeze sewer, trash, water, and utility fees at current levels for 2 years, as that is a backhanded way for councils to get more money if you don't freeze our real estate taxes this year. After you have done all that in a transparent way, so everybody can see what you're doing, come back to we the people and make your case for more money. Until you keep your hands out of our pockets, let your rhetoric about caring for the least of these, blacks, Asians, and Hispanics, match your actions. No más tax increases. No más tax increases. People are hurting right now. People are hurting. It is not the time right now to raise taxes. Thank you.
Our next registered speaker is Peter Fernandez.
Good evening. Oh. Good evening, and thank you all for having me. My name is Peter Fernandez. I have a few short remarks about the budget. Please forgive me if I misspeak, for I'm very young and inexperienced. Nonetheless, a few things stood out to me. I was reading over the parts of the 340-page budget, which I had the time to. I don't think I need to reiterate the scandal, which a lot of people have already brought up about frivolous spending and, budget bullet points about dancing videos and such. Appropriately, the proposal for the budget mentions increased transparency and financial accountability are major goals of the budget, and it's to that end that I have some remarks. I think it would mean a lot to the concerned residents to see the specific measures of accountability taken within the town administration, especially when throughout the entire budget there are millions of dollars of increase that go towards obscure operations and maintenance costs or drastic hikes in personnel service costs in virtually every category. I'll give a few examples that I found particularly interesting, but I promise a cursory glance will reveal far more throughout the entire document of what I'm talking about. In the legal department, as was a little mentioned, on page 70, there's a hike of $300,000 in personnel costs and nearly $700,000 in operations and maintenance, doubling the total costs of the department. But in performance indicators listed thereafter, there is literally no projected change in the amount of contracts to be reviewed, matters handled, meetings attended, and et cetera since 2025. In human resources, operation and maintenance costs likewise increased by $500,000, making a more than 50% increase, while personnel costs remain about the same. The cited significant service level change is, frankly, a word salad of we want employees to thrive, but what is the actual specific improvement being done? On planning and community development on page 105, comedically it says again that there are no significant service level changes. On the same page, there's a $900,000 increase in spending. In trust of the integrity of the council members, I presume there are obviously reasons for all the strange increases I listed. Nevertheless, this is a sort of subtle increased spending that is all over it and piles up a lot that requires this obviously upsetting tax increase in the first place. It is hard to understand what the increased spending is even on, and no doubt it is a cause for concern of residents and would do well to see it better justified in the budget. Perhaps the lack of easy justification is itself an invitation to cut spending, especially in the aftermath of a financial corruption scandal paired with raising property taxes. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful evening.
Our next registered speaker is Arthur Rode.
Good evening. My name is Arthur Rode. I'm a 20-year resident of Cary. I currently pay no Cary property tax, but I have children here who do. I think it takes unmitigated gall to propose a property tax hike of 10% more after having hiked taxes 40%, making a total of 60% over the course of 3 years. After the revelations of wasteful, excessive spending we have all been made aware of over the last 6 to 8 months. You council members should challenge the operating management of Cary to make a 10% reduction in spending rather than an increase. That's normal in most businesses. Recent revelations make clear that there's plenty of fat in the town budget to make such a cut. My favorite example is the electric fire truck that cost an excessive amount of money in order to get one special model. 2 weeks ago, I observed the town response to water seeping out of the ground near my residence. So, several town employees arrived in 3 shiny, new-looking pickup trucks, and they contemplated the problem. Before departing, they decided to place an orange cone over the source of the leak. The next day, 3 employees of a private contractor arrived in a well-used truck trailering a small backhoe. They did the excavation and fixed the lake promptly. We don't need a reprise of the many other examples of frivolous, unnecessary expenses that have been reported by the News and Observer recently. Town expenses are paid for by residents who are compelled under threat of law to pay the assessed taxes. Some of these residents make payments which strain their budgets and require sacrifices. The disbursement of these funds should be done with that situation in mind. Any excessive frivolous expenditures are an affront to those taxpayers. The town apparently lacks many of the standard financial controls common in industrial corporations. A system for employees to confidentially report malfeasance of any kind. A system for authorization of business travel by persons of higher rank than the persons incurring those expenses, and requiring receipts before any reimbursements are made. A system for authorization of only those educational expenses that contribute to the improved functioning of the government. A system for authorization of capital expenditures requiring multiple officials to sign off. As the mayor's told me in a meeting with him and the interim town manager, he and the council comprise the board of directors of a $500 million enterprise, with him as chairman. The town manager is the chief operating officer. If you remember the Enron Corporation that collapsed in 2001 due to financial mismanagement and fraud of Jeffrey Skilling, the chief operating officer, and Andrew Fasto, the chief financial officer. Responsibility extended to Kenneth Lay, chairman of the board. Mr. Lay used the same Sergeant Schultz defense that Mayor Weinbrecher used. I know nothing. It didn't work for Mr. Lay, and it should not work for the mayor. Not only were the officers of Enron published, many with jail sentences, their outside auditing firm also collapsed. There are reportedly a number of investigations into Cary's financial scandal. I hold out little hope anything will come of them when and if the results are ever reported. I expect all blame will be placed on the former town manager who was rewarded with a lavish financial settlement. What were you thinking paying him that money? In order to get its fiscal situation under control and restore some semblance of confidence in town government, the council needs members who are experienced in the essential cost control activities of large organizations and who know that those who failed in their pecuniary duties should act nobly and resign. Council must engage a new competent auditor. A new town manager should be hired from outside the existing town government staff. Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem should resign their offices, and they should challenge operating management of Cary to reduce rather than increase expenses.
I'm sorry, your time has expired. Thank you.
No additional registered speakers.
If you're in the audience and would like to speak at this budget public hearing, now is your opportunity.
Protocol has already been established. And I've already stated I'm Pamela and I'm running for President of the United States of America for 2028. I am in opposition to this budget completely. This does not reflect democracy. It reflects capitalism. It oppresses the poor. It robs the rich, and it totally murders and eliminates the middle class. It will increase homelessness. It will increase crime. It will increase violence against women and children. I spoke with you on April the 16th of this year and told you that we need to have some accountability to landlords. We need an escrow account where landlords put a portion of the rent into escrow to maintain property. But you want to raise taxes on property that is not even adequately cared for. You want to spend more money on guns and violence and mental health medications instead of getting to the root of people's issues. I don't see anything in this budget that reflects anything to stop homelessness, violence against women, supporting mothers, women who work 3, 4, and 5 jobs to provide for a family, and many of them are single-parent mothers. I have an initiative called Mothers' Lives Matter, Moms' Lives Matter. I know there are many people who think kids are first. Kids are goats. Children are first. But children don't exist without mothers and fathers. I don't see anything reasonable in this budget. It's not only offensive, but it is taking this city, this state, and our country backwards. You may be comfortable where you live. You may have 1 car, you may have 2 cars, you may have your head down not caring or liking what I'm saying. I really don't care. But the people who vote for you, a lot of people don't even know how to read the ballots. I don't see anything in this budget that is working or dealing with literacy, financial or otherwise. See, we can't get comfortable. And we can't get complacent thinking that everything is the way it's supposed to be, because it's not. I don't see anything in this budget that's doing any resources for people with protection orders or who need protection orders. I don't see anything in this budget that keeps a family together, brings a family together. I don't see anything in this budget that is reasonable or fair to multiracial people, black people, brown people, and indigenous people. This reflects capitalism. It reflects many, many different things. I don't see anything in this budget that protects the rights of heterosexual people. This budget needs to be taken off the table. Not only do you not need to make a decision tonight on this the budget, it needs to be totally redone. You have left out so many people. And if there are people who do have mental illnesses, instead of giving them labels, get to the root of their mental illnesses and find out the cause. Doping them up and throwing them in group homes and halfway houses. And this budget also will increase mass incarceration, which is present-day slavery. Because Thomas Corwin said that under no circumstances slavery to be abolished in the United States of America in the 13th Amendment of the United States Constitution. So who's going to be the slaves? And who will be the slave owners? This budget is unreasonable. It's unfair, and it does not protect the religious freedom of we who are Christians. Rethink. See, you're on that side of the table today, but you could be on this one tomorrow with the budget that you are proposing. It may not be your children. You may not even have children. It may not be your spouses. It may not even be your animals. But you're not being reasonable. You're not being fair. You're not being sensible. You're being capitalistic, and you're making money off of people who have no money. How dare you increase property taxes when you don't even give people what they need to maintain their property?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak at this budget public hearing? Anyone at all? Okay, we'll close the budget public hearing, and we'll move to our next public hearing, 29A09 Jacobs Creek and 25 REZ 16 Jacobs Creek Lane rezoning. Principal Planner Rachel Smith will introduce the item. Council will not take action on this rezoning and annexation tonight. It will be referred to the Planning and Zoning Board and will return to the council at a future meeting. Ms. Smith.
Good evening, Council. The owner of approximately 8.99 acres, addressed 4312 Jacobs Creek Lane, requests the application of initial Town of Cary zoning upon annexation. The property is located east of the Chatham and Wake County line and west of the American Tobacco Trail and White Oak Elementary School. A concurrent annexation petition, 25A09, has been filed. Cary's GIS maps indicate a small amount of stream buffer on the western extent of the property, which will be verified by field determination at the time of development plan review. The site is located a sixth of a mile west of the American Tobacco Trail, which is accessible via an existing Greenway Trail connection extending east from the Jasper Olive Road and Yates Store Road intersection. Existing sidewalks are shown in blue, and additional segments will be built as development occurs in the area. Yates Store Road, a 4-lane thoroughfare, provides access to the site. The applicant will extend Yates Store Road along the site's eastern boundary. You may recall the courtyards at White Oak rezoning approved last year, now known as the courtyards at Jacobs Creek, a 55 and older age-restricted community. This community is currently under development plan review and surrounds the subject property on 3 sides. This development will provide additional connectivity to the site via the extension of Mystic Sea Lane. The current zoning is Wake County Residential 40 Watershed. The applicant requests rezoning to Cary Residential 12 conditional use with the Jordan Lake Watershed Protection Overlay District and the Conservation Residential Overlay District. The proposed zoning conditions include limiting the use to 16 detached dwellings, a minimum of 2,400 square feet of community gathering space, and minimum lot sizes will be calculated outside of riparian buffer areas. Buffers shall be in common open space, and there will be sidewalks on both sides of all streets. Yates Store Road will be constructed to all applicable specifications. And because the courtyards at Jacobs Creek development is expected to be built first, Mystic Sea Lane will initially terminate with the turnaround bulb at the courtyard's property line. The applicant will remove the turnaround bulb when they connect their development to Mystic Sea Lane. Staff has evaluated the request with the Imagine Cary Community Plan. The site is located within the Green Level Special Planning Area, neighborhoods west of Flat Branch Sub-Area. This special planning area supports a gradual downward transition in density, moving west from NC 540 towards the Chatham County line, with areas west of the Flat Branch Stream not to exceed about 2.5 dwelling units per acre. Additional policy guidance includes shielding development from streets, context-sensitive design, and a predominant land use of detached dwellings on quarter-acre or larger lots. The proposed 16 detached dwellings on 12,000 square foot minimum lots and the resulting density of 1.78 dwellings per acre is in keeping with the area's land use pattern and generally meets the policy guidance of the special planning area and shape chapter for compatibility and transitions. The proposal would provide at least 2,400 square feet of community gathering area, which is twice the LDO requirement for a development of this size, which may help to promote open space and tree canopy preservation. Move chapter policies are generally met by the proposal's commitment to build sidewalks on all sites of subdivision streets, where the LDO only requires one side for local streets, the removal of the Mystic Sea Lane turnaround bulb, and the extension of Yates Store Road as a multimodal street subject to all Cary specifications. A neighborhood meeting was held in February and 6 neighborhood residents attended. There were no direct questions or concerns related to this proposal, only a question about a different rezoning. Staff received 2 emails after providing notice of the public hearing with concerns about traffic on Bachelor Road. Signs were posted and notice was provided within 800 feet of the subject property, which exceeds the requirements of the state and the LDO for notice. This concludes my presentation. Worth Mills, the applicant's representative, is here to provide comments, and after the public hearing, I'm available to answer your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. I'll invite the applicant's representative up at this time.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Worth Mills with Longleaf Law Partners here on behalf of Sterling West LLC, who is the property owner and the applicant. I'll keep my comments brief just because staff did a great job of summarizing our request. But essentially, this is a request for R12 conditional use to build up to 16 single-family detached dwellings on an approximately 9-acre parcel. Density would result in under 2 units an acre. I think 1.78 is the calculation. The density and minimum lot size are consistent with the green level special planning area recommendations for both densities below 2.5 units an acre and lot sizes of at least a 1/4 acre in size. To the south and southeast are developments that have a higher density and sort of a more dense housing product than what we are proposing here. So we think we are very much in line with not only the community plan, but also with the surrounding development or the developments that are currently under construction. As mentioned, we are requiring all perimeter buffers be in common open space. We have commitments for sidewalks on both sides of any internal streets. We've made commitments to the extension and construction of Yates Store Road, and we have doubled the amount of required community gathering area for a development of this size. I'm available to answer any questions as well, but appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Now it's time for the public hearing for both the annexation and rezoning of Jacobs Creek. That's 25A09 and 25REZ 16. And I'll call on the clerk to read any written comments and call on any registered speakers.
No written comments and no registered speakers.
If you're in the audience and would like to speak at this public hearing, now's your opportunity, and I would invite you forward. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing, open it up to council members for questions, comments. Your district?
No.
Your district?
Councilmember Bonsall. That's my district. No, I don't have any questions
Okay.
or comments.
I have one,
I have one too.
just one question. And this is more general. So here we are talking about a special planning area or a spa. There are recommended densities for the area. What teeth is there in the special planning area? Here's what I've wondered every time this comes up. Why isn't it just zoned to be that recommended density or less so that the people can build by right?
We don't do zoning. A property owner comes to the council and requests a zoning. We can do overlay zoning, and we have done that before, like with the town center area. But these areas are so big that we just put a guide out there of what we would like to see. But it takes quite a bit of work to zone it for a property owner.
Having said that, we did do a townwide rezoning 2002,
With
3?
2003, with
Three?
the adoption
Yeah.
of the LDO,
Yeah.
you changed all the names of the different zoning districts, so
Yep.
And we did
everything.
the town center.
And the town center got very specific kind of parcel by parcel rezoning, but the rest of town was more area wide and not parcel by parcel.
It allows the property owner their right to come in and decide how they would like their own land to be developed, if developed at all. I mean, it's a great idea. It would give more certainty.
I think maybe some property owners would want to just stay within Wake County and not.
Well, I'm not talking about the annexation necessarily, but when we have these Cary properties with a special planning area with guidelines for things like zoning and density, it seems like if it would be an opportunity to skip this entire expensive process and have the zoning that we want it at.
It sounds a little like the rezonings we had years ago that were so prescriptive. Units per acre, what it
Yeah.
would look like, and all this stuff, and we decided that that was actually hurting us than helping us. So if
Oh,
we-
is that why?
that's my opinion, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not
been a
saying do
long
it
time.
everywhere. I'm certainly not
Right.
suggesting we do that everywhere, but it seems like we have very consistent rezoning requests in some areas and
I would hate to take that right away from a property owner to determine what they want their zoning to be. That would be my feedback.
Okay.
I have 2 questions. I don't know, did you have a question?
No, you can go ahead, it's okay.
First, this is the first time I've seen R40W. I normally remember saying R40, or are we just putting W now for Wake County?
Watershed.
It's an excellent question. That is a Wake County designation, indicating that it has a watershed protection overlay district associated with it.
So having said that, what does that mean and look like for the rezoning? Does that mean there's certain buffers that are outlined? What does that look like in actual rezoning time?
So also a great question. So the Wake County Watershed Protection Overlay District looks very similar to ours because it's the Jordan Lake sub-district. But the R40 would, of course, require 1 acre or more lots. That'd be the most defining difference. And we can also provide more information on Wake County versus our watershed districts if you would like.
I would really like that because the density requested is 1.78 or something like that, which is higher than what Wake County would allow. Maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. I don't know. That information would be great. The other question is, because you brought it up, the Mystic Sea Lane is in a different rezoning, and I understand that, and it'll have a future connection. Will there be a future road connection sign on the bulb on Mystic Sea Lane, so all of those new residents won't be surprised? Because how does that look like? All of a sudden, there'll be a bulb there, and then what, a year or 2 later, you've got a bulb that turns into a street? What does that look like?
The timing is unknown, but we do presume courtyards at Jacobs Creek will be done first. So that's why that zoning condition is showing up. It's not impossible that there couldn't be a coordination if the development timeline aligns. Certainly courtyards at Jacob Creek is well ahead, but this is a much smaller piece of property. So it is possible that it would not exist if there could be coordination. But if it is built first, then our standard specs do have this road will be built eventually signs. So it's a
Right,
good
but
question.
it's a bulb, not a, I can't believe I'm talking about, it's a bulb, not a,
There are other examples.
so we do
Like
that
this,
whether it's a
yes.
bulb or
Provides
a,
a temporary
dead
turnaround,
end?
sometimes at a dead end, yes.
so no matter what, if there's a potential, we always put a sign there? That's my question.
I want to believe we do.
Can we just
When
make
it is
sure
at
that we
the
do?
edge of a property line specifically.
Okay.
I
That would be
can confirm, because I just saw it myself, that there is that sign you're talking about at the end of Yates Store Road, right where it stubs just past the property line in that corner.
Right, yeah, I'm just more concerned since you brought it up about Mystic Sea, because I don't want to get emails from all of those future residents who say, well, this is a cul-de-sac or a bulb or whatever the word is. I never expected this road to go past it. So if we could just make sure that that happens to set a predictability with an expectation with those new residents, that would be great.
I think good points, very good points. That brings up one question that I have, and you already touched upon it, but if you could emphasize a little bit more. I believe the rezoning request is for R40W, right? To R40W.
To R12 conditional use
To-
from
got it.
RW,
I
R40W.
see. So which means that in R40W, they will be required to have 1 acre lot versus in R12, now it's 10,000 square feet, which is 0.25 acres, right?
It's 12,000 square feet, yes.
12,000 square feet, but 0.25 acres?
A little bit more.
A little bit more? I think we did
Oh,
this
it's,
for
I think it's like
another project,
2.2
so
is
that's
the
what I
math or
remember.
so. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So for if we were to, and I'm just asking a very silly question, a process question, if the council says we're okay, we're fine with this switch, do we have to take any special permissions from Wake County for that, or our decision is the final decision? Okay, got it.
Correct.
And just to be clear, I'm assuming this is in ETJ, that's why it has a zoning? And so and usually placeholder zonings are R40?
Okay.
So that makes you come in for a rezoning?
A point of clarification,
Okay.
it's not within the town's
So
extraterritorial
how does it have a zoning
jurisdiction.
then?
It's Wake County zoning. It
Oh,
has
okay.
Wake County zoning of
So it's
R40W.
WW.
Yeah.
WW.
Wake Watershed. There, I invented an acronym.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I had one comment, and this is just, again, a little bit broad, but specific to this. One of the things that's sort of become apparent to me as we have annexed, since I've joined council here in my 4th year, a lot of properties, really. Probably not as much as my more experienced colleagues, but I'm starting to look at them and go, is this going to cost us more than they pay? It's particularly in light of annexations in areas where we do need to build fire stations and where there's pressure on response times and stuff. I don't know if I'm legally allowed to say I want to know how much revenue this is going to bring in versus what it will cost us to maintain the roads, the infrastructure, supply public safety, and all those things. But I sure would love to know that information because I honestly, at this point, would be very disinclined to approve annexations where there's it's just going to cost current residents more in property taxes as opposed to, I'm not expecting to make a profit off of them, and I think it would also create some probably density pressure on properties that are looking to annex, and that isn't my intention, but I would like to see it be sort of what I would consider to be self-sufficient as far as paying into the town, what the town is supplying and maintaining for these properties.
What would that look like to you? Like,
Yeah, I
I'm
was
just
gonna
curious,
ask
where
that.
what would that look like?
For example, on a recent rezoning, I said to myself, okay, they're going to build this many homes on the property, they're going to be this many square feet. I can figure out broadly what the approximate tax contribution's going to be. It's the same way that, as it was explained to me, a lot of developers are like, well, you've got to make the land cost and the building costs work, and it's almost formulaic how you come to density when it comes to trying to pay, for development. But, to me, I don't know exactly what that looks like. I know I'm asking for something that is, pretty unusual, and I'm not expecting a to-the-penny estimate, but you've got to we must have an idea of what any single block can carry, what it costs to install and maintain water lines, storm drains, the streets, all of that. And this is not me looking at this saying, this isn't going to be, this isn't going to pay for itself. I'm looking at this and saying, I have absolutely no idea if this is going to self-fund or not. And that's why I'm asking for that information, because I think it's an important thing to consider when thinking about annexing.
And that's a good question. The only thing I would ask you is they have the right to develop. So if you say no, what are you looking for? Are you looking for more density to match up the cost?
I'm looking to understand that.
Right.
They do have the right to develop, but they don't necessarily have the right to be annexed either. And we don't, if they're not annexed, we are not having to provide services, infrastructure, stormwater, roads, resurfacing, all that, correct?
Okay.
Like, I know there's some, we have agreements, and we do of course, go outside of our exact town limits. We service donut holes, and we have interagency agreements. I completely understand that, and that's appropriate and good, and it makes the region better. But when we every time we have one of these annexations, I go, I can't help it. I'm like, how much is that going to cost us?
And that's a good point. So they can develop in county zoning today, and they would do well and septic unless, do we allow them to tap into our water sewer lines anymore? You have to be in the town. Yeah, we used to allow that, I think, but,
Right.
so they would have to do that.
Councilmember Cone Johnson. Whoa, my mic is, I know. You and I are on the same page tonight. I have briefly discussed the same concept with staff, and I think maybe it's my perspective as a new council member as well, looking for an additional data point as we consider these rezonings. And, you know, what I go back to again and again, I'm a visual thinker and it's a powerful visual aid, is our triple Venn diagram of, you know, the priorities and trade-offs you make between service levels, tax rates, and density. And that visual aid, if you're in the combination of, you know, lower taxes and density, we look at the relationship between those two, and one of the arguments for density is revenue for the municipality, and then you offset, you know, service cuts or the tax rate. And so in thinking about those trade-offs, I feel like we're sort of missing that data point as we consider rezonings and revenue and thinking about spending on additional services. So I agree that I think that would be really helpful to think about as part of the complete consideration of applications.
Absolutely. I just want it to be mutually beneficial. Like, I'm really and truly, I'm not saying they need to pay more than they cost us. I'm saying they need to pay what they cost us.
You're required to provide services, and it's a fair point. And I just did a quick calculation. I'm not very good with calculations, but if I were to estimate $1 million home on 16 of those, about $60,000 in 1 year is what we get.
But I have no idea what it costs to put stormwater infrastructure and
Remember
water
that-
lines and all
Thankfully, we
that.
don't have
No,
issues
we
with
don't.
stormwater
Keep
in
in
this
mind,
city.
that's the cost, the developer's cost, right? Putting stormwater out, now the maintenance after it's out there. But
But
putting out
that's
the
not
road.
you know. well,
No,
that's-
I'm just explaining that, yes, the roads are put in by, and paid for by the developer, the stormwater, right, facilities, the water, if it needs a pump station, any traffic improvement, the Yates Store Road, that is an investment done by the developer, which is really paid for by the homeowner. What you're getting to, I think, which is really interesting, is if you wanted more tax money, then you would, the only way to do that is for them to increase density. And I can't ever remember sitting here and asking a developer to go back and give us more density.
But I don't know what that density, what that magic number is to make this a self-sufficient property either.
I don't know.
Maybe
We've
it could
never-
be only one house per acre
Yeah.
does the trick. I truly don't know what that is, but I say, you're doing the math in your head. I can see
No,
it in your eyes.
Many
Brett.
years ago, I was going to just add this,
Yeah.
the council asked for, and there was a study that looked at that. Looked at, if I recall, size of house, it was planning department, take into account apartments, commercial properties where
Sure.
there's less services. So my recommendation would be is you could, or ask us to convene a study to get that for you. And it's probably some version of economic analysis to it as well. But yes, you're on the right path.
Will there be a cost for that?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I know I
and
haven't
we-
spent money.
all you'd have to do is let us bring that back to you to determine what the cost is, or if staff could do it.
Or staff, yeah.
But it has, it's probably been at least 20 years. It was a
Yeah, I
long
don't
time
ever
ago.
remember it.
I
but-
do.
You
I
do, you
it,
remember,
yeah.
Harold?
Because I was surprised that basically the only thing that broke even or made money was high rises. Everything else lost money, so.
Yeah, well, and it's, to me, this is also a case of, you know, it's analogous, I always say that word wrong. My boyfriend in college, he got me a rabbit as a gift, right? I didn't have a cage, I didn't have food, I don't know, I didn't have, and then all of a sudden I've got vet bills and all these things down the line. That's sort of how I see, but the developers put in the infrastructure. Well, that's great, but down the
the
line, we're
police
gonna have to,
officers,
yeah,
fire
we're gonna have to do all
station.
those things. So I always look, unfortunately, I look at an annexation like somebody gave me a rabbit.
And
Which is,
it's the difference of it's the opposite of the influx subsidy, right? We used to have a lot of money.
Right.
But now it's
Exactly.
the opposite because we're an older community and as we age, maintenance, right? It's when you get a new house, everybody's really happy with the new house. You don't have any maintenance for the first 5 years. And then after that, you're like, whoa, this is an expensive
Yeah.
house, right? So, yeah, it might be cost-effective for us in the first few years, but then
Over time.
over time, it's going to increase. And that's probably something that we should do, and we did it once over looking at our older neighborhoods and how they're increasing in cost, just like the roads are increasing in cost and the maintenance. It's even bigger than just houses.
I think for this one, do we recommend this for planning and zoning review?
Oh, yeah.
It goes
Okay.
to planning and zoning.
Yeah.
It's part of the process. If you
Okay.
start mucking with the process, you're asking for trouble.
No, I'm not. I'm just bringing the conversation back to.
She's trying to move us
I was
ahead.
about to say, she wants to watch
She
the
wants to
end.
see
In a
the
nice
hurricanes
way. She wants to
playing.
watch the games.
All right, good conversation. This will go to the Planning and Zoning Board for their review and recommendation. And Ms. Smith, I guess, will help look up some of the questions, and council members can contact her. Awesome, thank you. We now move to our next public hearing, Act 39, Amendment to the Imagine Cary Community Plan, Carpenter Special Planning District, and Assistant Planning Director Katie Dry will introduce the item. Council will not take action on this amendment tonight, but it will be referred to the Planning and Zoning Board for their review and recommendation, and it will return to us at a future meeting. Ms. Dry.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request to amend the Imagine Cary Community Plan. Items which implement or update the Imagine Cary Community Plan are given ACT numbers, which is short for action. Act 39 is a comprehensive plan amendment for an assemblage of properties at Morrisville Carpenter Road and Lewis Stevens Drive. This property is located within Cary's corporate limits. The applicant proposes to amend policy guidance in the Carpenter Special Planning Area to allow multifamily and non-residential uses and buildings of up to 5 stories. Act 39 is being requested as part of a larger rezoning. This rezoning includes a subject site for Act 39 plus properties to the north. The properties to the north do not require a comprehensive plan amendment, as the uses are largely in alignment with the policies of the Carpenter Special Planning Area, as they're proposing detached dwellings and townhouses. The southern portion of the rezoning, which includes Act 39, is proposing multifamily uses and non-residential uses. The rezoning for the larger assemblage will be considered in the coming months through a public hearing. So why are we here tonight to consider the comprehensive plan amendment prior to the rezoning? I'll briefly talk about the process to date and process options that an applicant can choose. So the applicant submitted a rezoning with a comprehensive plan amendment filed on January 13th of 2026. The rezoning neighborhood meeting was held in March of this year. There were questions and concerns shared at that meeting regarding the proposed multifamily use, the non-residential uses, the proposed height, transitions, traffic. And for this case, the Town of Cary's Land Development Ordinance allows for comprehensive plan amendments to be considered separately from or concurrently with rezoning applications. In this case, the applicant has requested that the comprehensive plan amendment be considered prior to the rezoning request as a way to bring forward the requested change to the adopted vision earlier in the process to receive feedback and direction from council. As part of the Imagine Cary Community Plan, there are 5 special planning areas that were identified because they represent key opportunity areas where additional guidance is needed to help ensure future development aligns with the community's vision. Additional special planning areas and corridor plans may be added to Imagine Cary over time as our community matures and evolves. As we've been discussing the forthcoming visioning around Weston, a potential creation of a special planning area, which is an example of this. For each special planning area, detailed direction on important topics such as community character, development form, transportation, and design expectations are provided. These special planning areas also identify key issues and opportunities unique to each area to guide development decisions or preserve historic character. The map here highlights the special planning areas within Cary. This includes the Eastern Cary Gateway, downtown, historic Carpenter, which is what we're discussing tonight, Green Level, and the Chatham-Cary Joint Planning Area. Carpenter has been an important focus for Cary's efforts for several decades. In the late 1980s, Cary's planning jurisdiction expanded westward to include the Carpenter community. And a major milestone came in 1996 when Cary adopted a new town-wide land use plan. For the first time, Carpenter was identified as a special opportunity site, recognizing that its unique rural character could serve as a foundation for a distinctive destination in Cary. In 2000, the importance of the Carpenter historic resources were further recognized with the Carpenter Historic District when it was listed in the National Register of Historic Places. Building on that recognition, Cary adopted the Carpenter Community Vision Plan in 2005. This plan was further refined Cary's vision, emphasizing historic preservation, context-sensitive development, protection of rural character, and preservation of open spaces. And the policies of the 2005 plan were pulled into and refined further with the adoption of the Cary Community Plan in 2017. This image shows the location of the National Register District, which includes the rural crossroads and properties on the north side of Morrisville-Carpenter Road. It should be noted that the site for Act 39 is within the Carpenter Special Planning Area, and it is not within the National Register District. The associated rezoning, which straddles the north and south side of Morrisville-Carpenter Road and will be considered at a later date, it should be noted that the northern portion of that rezoning does include properties within the National Register District, and there are 2 contributing structures. The subject site is at the southwest quadrant of the intersection of Lewis Stevens and Morrisville Carpenter. It includes several structures, and a large portion of the site remains undeveloped. It is adjacent to and north of Magnolia Estates. Carpenter Park is across from Lewis Stevens Drive, and Good Hope Farm is in the quadrant just across the intersection. Properties to the north are largely undeveloped, and as noted, they are part of the associated rezoning. Because the site is within the special planning area, there are additional policies that are applicable. The applicant is proposing to change 2 parts of the special planning area. First is Policy 3, which speaks to new neighborhoods in the southern section of the special planning area. The current policy envisions detached dwellings. The applicant has proposed to add the following uses: multifamily and non-residential uses such as restaurant, retail, and office uses at Morrisville Carpenter Road and Lewis Stevens Drive if view sheds are protected through historic preservation streetscapes, building architecture is consistent with the historic area, and transitions are made to the south and to the west. The applicant is also proposing to change policies within the sub-area of the Carpenter Special Planning Area called Neighborhood South. This area is shown in yellow on the map. The applicant is proposing to expand the uses in the vision of the plan from detached dwellings to allow for multifamily and non-residential uses such as retail, restaurant, and office uses. They are also proposing that buildings of up to 5 stories could be envisioned at the intersection of Morrisville Carpenter Road and Lewis Stevens Drive with appropriate transitions, building architecture, and streetscapes. Similar to a rezoning, a comprehensive plan amendment will first have a public hearing, then be considered by the Planning and Zoning Board, and then back to the council for a final decision. The Town of Cary's Land Development Ordinance states that proposals to amend the comprehensive plan should be evaluated based on certain criteria, which include but are not limited to the following. First is a change in projections or assumptions from those on which the comprehensive plan is based, identification of new issues, needs, or opportunities that are not adequately addressed in the comprehensive plan, a change in the visions, values, policies, or objectives on which the plan is based, or standards governing the physical development of the town or any other geographic areas addressed by the comprehensive plan, or identification of errors or omissions in the comprehensive plan. Staff's preliminary analysis notes that the proposal varies from the adopted vision in terms of use, scale, height, and transitions. Staff also notes that the Imagine Cary Community Plan does direct development patterns to certain designations within the future growth framework map. Generally, higher densities and building heights are to be located in designations such as destination centers, commercial mixed-use centers, the downtown special planning areas, and others. Currently, the Carpenter Special Planning Area is not identified for higher densities or heights and is instead intended to support context-sensitive development that reinforces the area's historic character. This concludes my presentation. Ashley Terrazas with Parker Poe is representing the applicant and is here to speak to the case. And following the public hearing, I will be available to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dry. I would invite the applicant's representative up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is Ashley Honeycutt Terrazas with Parker Poe, and I'm here on behalf of the applicants, David Farrell and Dr. Bill Souter, the owners of the property that is the subject of this comprehensive plan amendment request and the associated rezoning that Katie just went over. David and Bill have deep roots in the Carpenter community. Their families have lived and owned land in Carpenter for generations. They have not only witnessed the growth in this part of Cary, they have helped shape it. Over the years, they've been involved in the development of neighborhoods such as Magnolia Estates, Carpenter Village, and Legacy. They help make possible important community assets including Carpenter Elementary School, Green Hope High School, West Regional Library, and the Good Hope Farm Park. As Cary has grown and more families have chosen to call this area home, David and Bill have consistently worked to help meet the town's needs while remaining respectful of the history and character of the Carpenter community that has been a part of their families' lives for generations. David and Bill have submitted a planned development district rezoning application for this property, which also includes the land to the north of Morrisville Carpenter Road, and that proposed development would provide a mix of housing types and uses, important greenway connections that have been planned for many years, and the preservation of 2 historic homes on the northern portion of the property where David and Bill grew up. The overall vision for that planned development district is a context-sensitive infill development that provides a variety of housing choices and neighborhoods serving commercial amenities while preserving and honoring the history of the property. For David and Bill, this is an opportunity to help shape the future of the land their families have stewarded for generations and to establish clear standards that respect Carpenter's heritage while accommodating thoughtful growth. But that rezoning will come before you at a later date. Tonight's discussion is much narrower. We're here to discuss a proposed amendment to some of the policy guidance contained within the Carpenter Special Planning Area of the Imagine Cary Community Plan. The amendment before you would recognize that multifamily residential uses and neighborhood scale retail, which could be standalone or in a mixed-use building, may be appropriate at the southwestern corner of the intersection of Morrisville Carpenter Road and Lewis Stevens Drive, subject to 4 important guardrails. First, view sheds must be preserved through historic preservation buffers and contextually sensitive appropriate streetscape design. Second, building architecture must be compatible with and respectful of Carpenter's historic character. David and Bill's families have been a part of this community for generations, and honoring that character is deeply important to them. Third, appropriate transitions must be provided between surrounding residential areas. And fourth, building heights would be limited to 5 stories, the same height as the Alta Ivy apartments recently constructed across NC 55 and visible from the subject property today. David and Bill's reasons for bringing forward this proposal are straightforward. Cary needs housing and walkable commercial amenities as it absorbs new growth. It's also a higher revenue generating use. The Imagine Cary Community Plan contains numerous policies encouraging greater housing choice, a broader range of housing options within neighborhoods, mixed-use development in appropriate locations, and opportunities for residents to live near services and amenities. Cary remains one of the most desirable places to live in North Carolina, yet the supply of developable land is increasingly limited while demand continues to grow, and when demand significantly exceeds supply, housing costs increase. We all see that reality every day. And this site presents an infill opportunity to accommodate additional housing in a location that is already surrounded by significant public investment and transportation infrastructure. Allowing additional housing types here enables more efficient use of land without expanding denser development into surrounding historic areas like the Carpenter Crossroads or other areas in the National Register Historic District. It supports responsible growth while remaining consistent with the long-term intent of the special planning area. As Katie went over, the historic Carpenter Special Planning Area traces its origins to the Carpenter Community Plan, developed through a lengthy public process in the late 1990s and early 2000s and adopted in 2005. Much of that plan was later incorporated into the Imagine Cary Community Plan in 2017. And at that time, and still today, the approximately 11-acre area at the intersection of Morrisville Carpenter Road and Lewis Stevens Drive is recommended for single-family detached residential development. Yet this property occupies a unique location within the broader Carpenter planning area. It's near the edge of the planning area, and it is not located within the National Register Historic District, which is across the street. It contains no historic structures. The site is primarily a cleared field. The existing barn was built in the 1980s, and the small residence on the property was built in the 1950s. And most importantly, the context surrounding this property has changed dramatically since the Carpenter Community Plan was adopted. What was once a rural crossroads is now a major intersection that carries substantially more traffic than it did 20 years ago. Even in the 2017 update to the Carpenter Special Planning Area acknowledged that the area was evolving because of roadway expansion, schools, the library, and new residential development that simply did not exist when the original plan was created. The plan specifically identified the Morrisville Carpenter Road realignment as one of the most significant future changes. That project has now been completed, resulting in a 4-lane divided roadway through this area. The plan itself recognizes that while the roadway serves an important regional transportation need, by its very nature, a 4-lane highway can be an incongruous facility within the heart of a historically rural area. In addition, there are now public amenities surrounding this intersection that did not exist when the original plan was adopted. Good Hope Farm and Carpenter Park are directly across the street. And again, David and Bill were a part of giving that to the town. And from a planning perspective, it makes sense to locate additional residents within walking distance of parks and public amenities that the town has invested in and continues to maintain. For all these reasons, we believe this amendment represents a targeted and thoughtful update to planning guidance that is now more than 20 years old. It supports Cary's broader housing and growth objectives, it responds to changed conditions on the ground, and it preserves the core principles that have long defined the Carpenter Special Planning Area: historic preservation, context-sensitive design, and respect for community character. And I also want to quickly emphasize what this amendment does not change. The core policies that define the Carpenter Special Planning Area would remain exactly as they are today. Policies focused on preserving the area's historic heritage, policies encouraging architecture and design that respects Carpenter's historic context, policies supporting village trails and pedestrian connections that have a more rural character, policies promoting the preservation of historic structures. None of these policies are proposed to change. We are continuing to work closely with town staff on the details of the rezoning proposal that would incorporate those goals and policies, including architecture, transportation improvements, buffers, public infrastructure, and many other elements. In fact, we've already been working through the site planning and transportation issues on the rezoning case for more than a year. If the council determines that updated guidance is warranted, then it becomes our responsibility to work with staff and the community to develop a rezoning proposal that fulfills that guidance and merits your approval. Approval of this comprehensive plan amendment does not guarantee approval of any future rezoning request. The Land Development Ordinance expressly allows these policy questions to be considered separately from a rezoning application. If the eventual rezoning proposal fails to satisfy the policy guidance under discussion tonight, or if other issues arise related to design, transportation, compatibility, or community impacts, the council retains full discretion with respect to the rezoning. This amendment simply provides updated policy guidance regarding the types of land uses that may be appropriate at this location. And rather than spending years refining a rezoning proposal that we know does not align with the land use policy guidance, we're asking the council to first consider whether this guidance adopted more than 20 years ago, calling for exclusively single-family detached homes at what is now a major intersection, still reflects the most appropriate vision for infill development on this unique site within the historic Carpenter Special Planning Area. For the next chapter of this property, David and Bill envision thoughtful, context-sensitive infill development. By allowing a limited expansion of housing choices and neighborhood-scale commercial uses at this major intersection, while also requiring clear protections and design standards, this amendment strikes an appropriate balance, preserving Carpenter's historic identity while helping meet the needs of a growing community, more so than a handful of large lot homes that could be built there today. Thank you for your time and consideration this evening, and we welcome your feedback, and we look forward to this discussion.
Thank you. So now's the time for the public hearing for Act 39 Amendment to the Imagine Cary Community Plan, Carpenter Special Planning Area. I'll call on the clerk for written comments and call on any registered speakers.
We received 10 written comments. They've been emailed to the council prior to the meeting, provided to council upon arrival, and attached to the online agenda. We have 2 registered speakers. Our first one is Susan Ornstein.
Good evening, everyone.
Can you move
I'm
to
gonna
your
be using-
left just a little bit?
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to be using a phrase that's usually used at the national level. Have it make sense. You're proposing taking a very bucolic terrain with historic homes and moving those homes around to accommodate a 5-story building that will be jarringly different from the stated historical designation of the surrounding area. You're also proposing adding an overwhelming amount of commercial space. And I don't know if many of you have taken a walk down to the brand-new community meeting place squared right down the block on Carpenter Town Road, but I was out there canvassing. And I was kind of stunned. It was cooler, a Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, and there is literally no foot traffic there. Most of those commercial spaces are not rented. In fact, 90% of them are not rented. And even the liquor store didn't even have somebody coming there. In case you haven't noticed, or the people who are proposing this change to the area, we live in a time of e-commerce, and conventional enterprises are hurting. People can get it cheaper and quicker at Amazon and have it delivered to their homes with just the use of their mouse. Outside of the grocery store, which can also suffer losses, i.e., look at Harris Teeter, what store have you been in lately? Why would we need a physical store when something like Instagram and influencers have really good recommendations? I may be 75, guys, but let me tell you, I follow a lot of people, and a lot of those recommendations influence what I buy, much more than what I find in the store or what I do in my house. And this is not a time of we build it and they will come. That field of dreams is gone today. We live in corporate America. And I'm glad you brought up Alta IV, which is the behemoth across Route 55. It's not rented. It's not full. And it's the shape of business today is so different than the shape of business 15 years ago or pre-COVID. We're living in a time when entry-level jobs are scarce and when corporations are using AI. So we can build a lot of buildings, but that doesn't mean that those buildings are going to be filled with people who have jobs. And that's something we have to bear in mind before we overbuild, because that has happened in New Jersey, and that's where I used to live. So doing more with less is the way corporations run. So you're not going to have the same influx of people. But even if you were to have an influx of people into the area, they might bring children. And where are you going to put the children? You were asking before about the cost of things if we put density into the mix. And I'm going to ask you, where are you going to put the children? In what overcrowded school? You've cut some ESL, I understand, from going around and talking to people. You've also cut some special education. Teachers are leaving en masse because they aren't being well paid. If you get this many people in, where are you going to put the kids? I mean, that's something you really got to take into consideration. As for traffic patterns, I live there. So I can tell you there's a monthly accident at the corner of Louis Stephen and Morrisville Carpenter. So I don't know how you're going to tastefully avoid that if you make things more dense. That's up to you. But I'd like you to make some sense of this and think about what will be the reality if you do overbuild and no one comes to your field of dreams.
Our next registered speaker is Barry Pope.
Mr. Mayor, council members, good evening. My name is Barry Pope. I've been a resident of Magnolia Estates for 18 years. My wife and I enjoy the rural nature of the land surrounding our property, which is what attracted us to Magnolia to buy the house that we're in. My backyard backs up to the proposed apartments and commercial development requested in the amendment. I understand that Mr. Farrell and Dr. Souter have land that has been in their respective families for several generations, and I definitely respect that they have the right to develop their property. As you review this requested amendment, I ask the town council to ensure that the development meets the intent and spirit of the Imagine Cary Community Plan, particularly the Carpenter Planning Area Comprehensive Plan. As a member of the Magnolia Estates HOA Board of Directors, I would like to cover some areas of concern from our community. We believe that the comprehensive plan should guide development and not be rewritten to fit one project. When the rezoning reaches you, the council must decide whether it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Based on our community's understanding, amending the plan first effectively pre-decides the question in the applicant's favor before the rezoning is ever reviewed on its merits. The amendment also removes the protection that exists to preserve Carpenter's historic character. The current Carpenter area plan states that single-family housing is most preferable in this southern section that we're discussing. The redlined amendment request deletes that language and inserts that multifamily retail, restaurant, and office uses may be appropriate at the exact intersection, which is near the historic Carpenter Crossroads and adjacent to the Good Hope Farm and Carpenter Park, as we saw earlier. The amendment also allows apartments up to 5 stories, or which would be essentially about 60 feet tall, at roofline to be built. This amendment weakens the very safeguard the plan was written to provide. The intensity is incompatible with the surrounding area. Residential 40 permits, as you well know, roughly 1 dwelling per acre. And we understand it's not going to stay at that. But up to 320 dwellings plus 20,000 square feet of commercial development beside of an established low-density residential land, which is Magnolia Estates, is an order of magnitude change, not the appropriate scaled or neighborhood scale development that the plan contemplates. Traffic also warrants some hard scrutiny. The applicant cites the widening of Morrisville Carpenter Road as the justification for greater density. Before the plan is changed, the council should require and review a current traffic study quantifying the trips this project would add to the intersection. Currently, I can see from my house a constant stream of vehicles on Morrisville Carpenter. So the traffic that this additional number of apartments and commercial will generate is of special concern. And we've already heard about the intersection there has regular accidents. The site is within the Jordan Lake Watershed Protection Overlay District. So the The intensification would substantially increase impervious surfaces and stormwater runoff, and that should be assessed also before the policy framework is loosened to allow it. The amendment undercuts its own stated purpose. Relocating historic structures to make room for higher density development is at odds with the plan's intent to protect Carpenter's historical context, not just individual buildings. But what do you see? How do you feel? It's a rural area. If you haven't been through there, I encourage you to go. It's a rural area. It's beautiful. And again, that's what drew us to Magnolia Estates. Neighbors whose property borders the land covered by the amendment are especially concerned since they may now, in the future, have 5-story apartment buildings visible from their backyards. There is a real and broad concern among Magnolia Estates neighbors about this proposed amendment to the Carpenter Special Planning Area. I hope you will weigh it as a policy signal that it is. Keep Carpenter area plans protections intact and continue to promote the rural and historic character of Carpenter. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you on this matter.
Thank you.
No additional registered speakers.
If you're in the audience and would like to speak at this public hearing, now's your opportunity.
Testing? Okay, there we go. Hi, good evening, Mayor and council members. It's so good to see everyone here. I grew up in and I currently live in the Carpenter area, so it's a very,
Could you give us your name, please?
Oh, Diana.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I grew up in the area, and so it's very special to me because of that. I have a lot of early memories, and for me, it still feels connected to the history and character, which is what makes it unique, and I believe, in part, because of the special planning protections in place here. I want to be clear. Sometimes I get too far away from the mic. I want to be clear that I understand Cary is growing and that new housing is needed, but not every location is appropriate for every type of development. So the question before you tonight is not whether Cary should grow. The question is whether this area should be changed to accommodate a level of residential density and commercial development that is fundamentally different from what exists here today.
Can I get you to not hold the mic?
Oh.
You're driving the guys in the booth crazy.
Oh, apologies.
They'll adjust to you. You don't have to adjust.
I'm not very used to speaking with a
You're
mic.
good. You're good.
Oh, okay, wonderful, thank you. Thanks for letting me know that feedback. Act 39, it may be presented as a simple planning amendment, but it's not. It would remove protections that have helped preserve the character of Carpenter and the special planning area and open the door to a much more intensive development pattern in one of the community's most historic areas. There are many places in Cary where higher density housing makes sense. Areas already planned for that intensity, employment centers, existing urban development. Carpenter is different. So the choice to change the plan here is a defining one. Once this land is developed and Carpenter's character is changed, it's permanently altered. And what happens with Act 39 is going to shape this place for generations to come. So at this point, I also want to ask the audience, something of the people here tonight, if you're here because you believe the historic character of Carpenter and the special planning area should be preserved, would you please raise your hand? Okay. Thank you. I also want to recognize that there are many members of the community who support preserving Carpenter and the special planning area who could not be here tonight. So please keep them in mind as well. Council members, there is significant concern in this community about permanently changing the character of Carpenter and the planning area. Future housing, as I mentioned, it can be built in many areas. Historic Carpenter, the special planning area, they exist in one place only. Act 39 and the Farrell-Souder rezoning, they rise or fall together. So the question before you is whether the comprehensive plan should be changed for just this specific development. In my view, the plan should guide development, not be rewritten for a single project. I would ask you all to please keep that in mind as you consider Act 39. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak at this public hearing? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and open it up to council members for questions and comments. I guess my comments to the applicant kind of fall in line with the last speaker. I mean, we spent years creating a vision, and I need an argument to abandon that vision, and I haven't heard it yet. So that's where I am. So between now and decision time, you've got to convince me of why we need to change our vision. And so
It's Councilmember Richards' district.
Thank you, Councilmember Bonzal, and thank you, Mayor. I'd like to begin by thanking the applicant and their attorney. Ashley, where did you go? There you are. Who very generously met with me and several of my colleagues to discuss this application at length. And I'll repeat what I shared in the meeting, which was thanking the applicants who have deep roots in Cary for being such good stewards of this land, of adjacent land. My family's a more recent addition to the community, and so we've moved into a changed landscape from what it looked like when your families were here, and we appreciate that mindful growth. And I appreciate the residents who have reached out to me and have been very pragmatic and have recognized that this is really not a decision about if this area develops, but how this area develops. And I did share with the applicant at our meeting, I share many of the concerns that the residents have shared here about 5 stories, if that height is appropriate for this area, if retail is appropriate for this area. But something I've been thinking a lot since I had that meeting with the applicant, and we talked about this a little bit, and my colleagues joined me in this conversation, was more of a philosophical argument about the value of long-range planning documents and what we as current leaders and council members owe it to past leaders in the community who have made these decisions, who have thought very carefully about what is appropriate for this area already. And what I've thought about is how we balance being a adaptive council that responds to changing circumstances, because really every rezoning application is considering a change. The land is being used one way and we're considering using it in a different way. But we return to Imagine Cary to help us do that in a comprehensive way, to help us do that in a thoughtful way. In fact, we just had a rezoning application in Weston where we said, oh, we wish actually that we had a little more guidance for this area, and the timing didn't work out, that guidance is probably coming after the rezoning. In this case, we already have that guidance. So I think to change it requires serious scrutiny, requires a really compelling reason. And Mayor, I agree, I have not heard that really compelling reason for changing circumstances. And it just comes down to the merits of a long-range plan. And in this case, I mean, the name sort of gives it away, a special planning area. The community has already weighed in, has already given it serious consideration. It's almost a letter from the past to us, and it says, dear future leaders, we've thought about this very carefully. Please take these factors into consideration when you are faced with this future decision, and that future decision is now. And so I think to the extent that Imagine Cary is our guiding document in any decision, it requires respecting that precedent and respecting those decisions that have been made, unless there is a very compelling reason, and I don't know that I've heard that for this application.
Other thoughts, questions?
I'm just going to pancake on to what you said. And I do want to address a couple of things since we were here on the council in 2017 when Imagine Cary came up. So it wasn't 20 years ago, it was 10 years ago when we reestablished and reaffirmed our commitment to the special planning area along with all the residents. So the Magnolia residents bought and built those houses knowing full well what was expected in that area. So protecting historic properties and their setting is absolutely important. That vision of Carpenter as a preserved rural crossroads is important, not just because of the history, but also because it's a context-sensitive infill. We now know, like you said, we have a guiding document that says what we want here, or actually what previous councils and previous residents, because thousands of people weighed in on the Imagine Cary plan, they told us what they want, and they weighed in. I'm also concerned that we have, I'm a density lover, and I also understand where that density is appropriate. And density in commercial and retail can be done if it context sensitive to where it resides. Would a neighborhood-like type of retail be appropriate there? Absolutely. I can see kids going, across the street to Carpenter Park and playing in fly away home, and then coming across the street and having ice cream. Sure. But does it need to be a 5-story apartment building? I'm not there. And one last set of comments. I really took to heart what the residents have said and what others have said who have emailed us. I feel like the possible rezoning is driving the planning amendment. If there's a reason for a planning amendment change, it should likely stand alone. But we know what's driving this planning amendment. It's a request to do a particular rezoning. So if that's the case, and we've done this in the past, I would like them both to come together to council so we know what we're getting. Look, I'm open to more homes. We desperately need more homes, and maybe even some additional height, 2-3 stories. But I don't want to push all of our growth to places just because that's where we can build. I really take seriously that the Carpenter Plan's promise that Neighborhood South would look and feel like a transition. If we do that type of height, it doesn't look and feel like a transition. So I'm where the mayor is, and also Councilmember Richards, I really need to see the why before I would be able to jump on board to this.
Other thoughts?
I'll just say one thing. I'm with one of the speakers who said that density is good, Cary is growing, which is amazing. We need more housing, we need more choices. And this is a great location. When I moved to North Carolina, we actually rented a house in Carpenter area. So I know that area very well, and I know a lot of families there. And I just feel like with this proposal, and Ashley, I know you've tried very hard to meet me, and because of certain circumstances, I could not. But my initial thought on this is that because of the 5-story kind of lacks the transition with the single-family homes, and I'm a very big believer of having good transitions. So I personally feel like it would be best if you could go back and take the plan and kind of rework this, but that's where I am.
Other comments?
I have a question for my more seasoned colleagues, since that's what we decided a while back, to call you seasoned.
Seasoned.
When have you seen amendments? When or have you seen amendments come to you in this context where, I mean, I think what you just said probably told us that you're not used to seeing it like this. I mean, I always want to know what, I will say it 1,000 times if I feel like I need to, but we shouldn't do things just because that's the way they've always been done. And I also like to know context, like what are other cases where you've seen something similar, or is this a brand-new idea?
So I can give my opinions.
Go ahead.
So before the Cary Community Plan, you had a land development ordinance, and that was an ordinance that was created for development by the council and staff, and so sometimes there were legitimate reasons to change that. We did. So we constantly had, they came in pairs, the rezoning and the LDO change. And now, to me, we spent 3 years creating the Cary Community Plan. If you were involved in that, we went around and did these little public meetings everywhere, met with business leaders, met with all kinds of people. And then we had all this data, and we had 30 citizens boil it down to decision points. And all this process took 3 years. And it gets back to why would we change the vision? It really better be a good reason to change that vision, because we spent a lot of time and effort to create that vision. And that was citizen generated, so.
And we did have comprehensive plan amendments quite
Yes.
a bit that were changed. I don't know about any special planning areas. The only one I can think of is we actually put on hold and actually said, no, we don't want to do any rezonings until we have a plan for the Eastern Gateway. We had multiple requests for land at the Eastern Gateway, which is where Fenton is right now, and we didn't have a plan for that area. So many of those fell through because we didn't have a plan. Then we had a plan, and then something aligned to that plan. But comprehensive plan amendments we used to get quite a bit, but they were generally with a rezoning. That's something different.
I really appreciate, in addition to all the work the applicant has put in, the feedback that we've gotten pretty quickly from residents, and the idea where you can think, well, it's no big deal. You are just saying this is something that could be, and then you have the opportunity later to say, no, we don't want that. But we're making if we chose to, we would be making an amendment to the community plan, the Cary Community Plan, and then it becomes very easy then how do you say no to a 5-story building with retail because you just said that it's appropriate for it to be there? So, I wrote down, I tried to put, like actual words for things I've heard, the community vision and the unique rural character. And somebody had mentioned, the context has changed. I think it was Ashley. The context has changed. And it has. The context has changed for everything in Cary. So I don't necessarily think that's super unique to this area, though I know there's, changes to an intersection. So what I'm really struggling with is, has the context changed enough to change the vision? And
And Councilmember Craig, I might add too, I haven't heard that the plan didn't understand at the time that the context was going to change. I believe it knew that the landscape was going to change. And still, that's almost the purpose of it, is recognizing. So I don't think it's an ignorance on the part of the plan, the people that contributed to the plan. I think it was explicitly knowing, because density is coming, because this is going to look different, because the street is going to get wider, we still affirm that this is what this area should look like. So almost because it's changed, not in spite of it.
Special planning area. Councilmember Craig, could you repeat your last sentence? I don't know. Yeah, it's like the context changed enough.
Has the context changed enough that we would change the vision?
Yes, I totally agree with that. And especially for the Imagine Cary, last time, Councilmember Richard and Mayor Pro Tem Bush, we had a meeting with the applicant. I really appreciate the applicant provided with decked parking with the apartment. To look at it, just itself is really a lot of investment because most of the apartments, they won't spend decked parking. But I asked another question to our staff, Heather. Does it match to our Imagine Cary? So I got the answer today. It shows they're going to amend the Imagine Cary policy. So that's, especially with the residents come here and speak up, I feel I'm learning. 'Cause last time our meeting, I was like, I don't have any context in history. And like the mayor said, how much we have put effort into this Imagine Cary plan. And same as our council member Craig said, if we need to change, there need to be enough reason, like the why we need to change. Same here, I don't have enough why to change this, but I still feel the generations of the applicants have lived in Cary. They're trying to make Cary for a better future. I think they are trying to make the plan successful, but still we need more reason somewhere. Yeah, we need to work on that. From the residents, I feel we have so many written comments here, so I have to think about it carefully. And especially I feel I was told by many people that government is slow, and now I totally understand why we need to slow, because every decision we made, it will impact the future of Cary. This new council want to make better decision for the future residents.
I think one additional point that we're all making here is that the SPA absolutely anticipated the Morrisville-Carpenter realignment. That's actually mentioned in the plan. So the fact that to use that as a reason for higher density doesn't necessarily make sense, because the SPA was created in order to protect that historic district. So we already knew the road alignment was coming, and it would have a profound impact on the Carpenter area, which is part of the reason why the SPA was created. So yes, there is more traffic than there was before the realignment, but that was part of the reason for creating the special planning area.
Okay. So this is going to the Planning and Zoning Board for their review and recommendation. This is early in the process. So the Planning and Zoning Board is going to see this in a couple of months or so. And so it won't come back to council for a decision for 3-4 months probably, or longer. So there's plenty of time for things to change. I would encourage everybody to work with the applicant. And if you have questions, make sure you ask. Katie Dry will know the latest and greatest information. So if you contact her, she can tell you what's going on. She'll be in contact with the applicant and vice versa with the citizens. So I want to thank you all for coming here to speak, and those that are watching us streaming, thank you for your feedback as well. And again, we're early in the process, and we'll move to the Planning and Zoning Board Advisory Group next, and they will make a recommendation in just a few months. So thank you. All right, we're going to move to discussion items now. Our first discussion item is 25 REZ01 Brandelier Lane. Principal Planner Rachel Smith will present this item, and council may take action. Ms. Smith.
Hello again. This is a request to rezone a half-acre site located at 6708 Bandelier Lane. You held a public hearing for this request in September of last year, and council may take action tonight. The property is located northwest of the intersection of Bandelier and Sanders Grove Lane and is vacant. As the property is in the extraterritorial jurisdiction and not the corporate boundary, annexation would be required to connect to Cary utilities. Annexation is not requested at this time. The site is located within the Historic Carpenter Special Planning Area, as well, shown here in red, and also within the National Register of Historic Places Carpenter Historic District, shown in blue, and the site does not contain any historic resources. The current zoning is office, research, and development. And the applicant requests rezoning to residential 20 conditional use to allow a single detached dwelling. The Jordan Lake Watershed Protection Overlay District will remain. The proposed zoning conditions include limiting the use to one detached dwelling and associated accessory uses, and there will be only one driveway, which will adhere to access management standards. Vinyl and aluminum siding are prohibited building materials. As written, this would apply to any structure on the site. For the principal structure, the zoning conditions require a continuous brick or brick veneered foundation, a minimum roof pitch of 412, a front porch, garage doors located to the side or rear, and any future additions will only be permitted to the side or the rear of the principal structure and shall not exceed the height. In the R20 district, the LDO permits a maximum height of 35 feet with some allowance for additional height via excess setbacks. At the Town Council public hearing, there were no speakers and no written comments. There were no questions or comments from the council, and no changes were made to the request following the public hearing. The Planning and Zoning Board reviewed this request at their November meeting. Some board members had comments that there may be opportunities to better align the fit of the new building with the historic district. The board found the request consistent with the Imagine Cary Community Plan by a vote of 6-2. To address the comments made by the planning board, the applicant worked with historic preservation staff to add 3 additional conditions related to the principal structure, including that the foundation shall be brick, there will be a front porch, and any future additions will only be permitted to the side and rear and will not exceed the height of the home. The request is generally consistent with applicable Imagine Cary Community Plan policies, including those for historic preservation, Carpenter Special Planning Area, and the Move Chapter. Staff recommends approval of the proposed rezoning. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. I'll open it up to council members. Questions, comments, or motion if you're ready.
My only comment is I really applaud the applicant for making the changes that were requested by the planning board. That shows the kind of thing that we want to see when something comes before council and we get feedback.
It's so prescriptive. I can picture the house.
There you go.
In my head.
There you go. So with that, I'll make a motion that we approved our 20 CU. Is that right?
There's a motion at your seat.
Oh,
It might be
it's
under your
very
packet.
specific? Okay.
Yes.
Does somebody have, oh, here it is. Make a motion that we adopt the following documents attached to the online agenda. The Statement of Consistency for 25 REZO 16708 Bandelier Lane and the rezoning ordinance for 25 REZO 16708 Bandelier Lane.
There's a motion
Second?
and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Thank you.
We now move to our next discussion item, independent auditor selection and contract award. Finance Director Kimberly Branch will present this item and council may take action.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I am here to discuss the town's external audit selection process and present staff's recommendation for the town's independent audit services contract. Staff is requesting council's approval to enter into a new agreement with the recommended audit firm. As you all will recall, we had an initial update on this process during our Q3 meeting on May the 14th. In accordance with Cary's financials, with Cary's financial reporting and operations policy, the town evaluates its external audit services at least every 5 years. Fiscal year 2025 was the final year of our current contract, making this the appropriate time to conduct a competitive review of our audit services. North Carolina state law requires local governments to obtain an independent financial audit each year, and that contract must be approved by the local government commission. The purpose of the audit is for the external auditor to determine whether the town's financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects and prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, also known as GAAP. Also, North Carolina statute, according to North Carolina statute, the governing board is responsible for, let me go back.
Runaway slides.
There we go. Okay, my apologies. Also, according to state statute, the governing board is responsible for selecting the town's independent auditor. As such, the independent auditor reports directly to the council, helping ensure the auditor's independence and accountability. It is important to understand that the auditor's opinion is not a rating of the town's financial health or financial condition. The auditor's opinion applies specifically to the town's basic financial statements and related disclosures. It is also important to note that an annual financial audit is not designed to guarantee the detection of fraud. To summarize the process, the town received 4 proposals from qualified audit firms in response to an RFP that was issued in March. An evaluation team reviewed each proposal using established criteria, including the firm's qualifications and experience, proposed audit approach, staffing and resources, and overall cost. Following the initial evaluation, the 2 highest-ranked firms were invited to participate in finalist interviews. These interviews provided staff with an opportunity to further assess each firm's technical expertise, understanding of the town's needs, commitment to client service, and overall fit as the town's independent audit partner. The Audit Review Committee identified Cherry Beckert and Malden & Jenkins as the 2 finalist firms in the selection process. Both firms demonstrated experience in governmental account auditing, an understanding of local government financial reporting requirements, and resources necessary to serve an organization of Cary's size and complexity. This chart summarizes the key considerations evaluated by the review committee throughout the selection process. Staff is recommending Cherry Beckert based on its extensive experience auditing North Carolina local governments, strong understanding of town's operations and financial environment, and consistent record of delivering quality audit services in compliance with required deadlines and reporting standards. Based on questions and feedback received from council throughout this process, the review committee also discussed opportunities to obtain additional independent evaluations beyond the scope of an annual audit, financial audit. These services could include financial condition assessments, fraud risk assessments, internal control reviews, and internal audit reviews. Unlike the annual audit, these types of engagements provide a deeper evaluation of financial practices, controls, risk, and policy compliance. Upon council's approval, staff will finalize and execute the audit contract with Cherry Beckert. The contract will then be submitted to the Local Government Commission for the required approval. And in coming months, staff will return to council with options for additional independent financial and operational reviews that would be separate from the annual audit. So with that, I close with the recommendation. We are asking that council appoints Cherry Beckert as Cary's auditor for fiscal years 26, 2027, and 2028, with an option to renew for up to an additional 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Branch. I'd open it up to council members for questions or comments or a motion, if you're ready.
When we discussed this before, it was in our work session, right?
It
So-
was in
Very
our work
extensively.
Pretty extensive. I'm not going to try to repeat everything, but thank you for the extra
You're welcome.
scrutiny. But I do want to mention, in case this is the first anybody's hearing of this, that we did ask staff to investigate additional services that the auditing firm could supply to us, which would be additional scrutiny to the money coming in and out, right?
Yep.
So I look forward to seeing what those potential things are.
Kimberly, I apologize for putting you on spot, but what date, which work session was that? So
It was at the quarterly, it was actually at the quarter 3, May 14th.
May
Okay,
14th?
so
Yes.
people can go back to that recording and they can listen to the
See the detail,
conversations.
absolutely.
I love that you remember that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, That's impressive.
That's impressive.
It's been a
And
lot of
those-
meetings.
Those specific services, for anyone who's watching who doesn't want to watch the whole May 14th, that you have on the other additional services, they truly cover what our collective concerns are and what our residents' concerns are, you know, being able to look for fraud, being able to align with our fund balance, our financial condition. So I'm really so thankful that you worked with Cherry Becker to add those services, or to add the idea of those services as we move forward, so that we can have that kind of scrutiny by an outside organization. So thank you for doing that.
We ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Cherry Becker LLP as our auditor for fiscal years, for the next 3 years, 2026, 2027, and 2028, with an option to renew for up to an additional 2 years.
Well, second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Branch.
Thank you.
We now move to our third discussion item, amendment to delegation of authority, and interim town manager Russ Overton will present the item and council may take action.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll briefly go through the changes proposed to the delegation of authority, and then start out by reminding you that 4 council members in December initiated this item, and that, to keep it informal, Sarika, Lori, Carissa, and Michelle. So thanks for bringing that item forward. We had a work session on April the 16th, if anyone wants to go back and watch that, where you all had a great discussion. Some of these slides are the same tonight, regarding these authorities and then what you wanted to see changed. So tonight,
But I think this item was initiated on January 6th.
Yes.
In the work
Oh.
session.
all right, well, I'm giving you extra credit by saying it was December. It may have been.
It was on both of our lists. though.
Yeah.
Correct. It was
Yeah,
on
but
2
the list in
separate
December.
lists.
Part of it was.
A little bit of background is obviously this is kind of routed in state law. I'll let Lisa Glover answer any of those questions, should you have any. But basically, it's a resolution instead of a policy because of that state law. That law just kind of stipulates in requiring what your delegation of authority is as to what goes before the council as approval. And to go through a little bit of the details of this resolution, it details what council authorities are and what further can be delegated to the manager. So I'll highlight that with a difference of then we have a standard procedure and an internal standard procedure that dictates how staff operationalizes this structure. So you delegate things to me, or you have them yourselves, and then standard procedure 146 further delegates approvals to various staff. Looking at the last 10 years, there have been 10 changes over roughly 11 years, actually, and that averages about 1 per year. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I highlight some going back to 2015, and I'm just going to slowly click through that. We did go through these in a little bit greater detail at the work session. The current state of delegation of authority to contracts is listed here. Obviously, we've all learned, and there's been plenty discussed about the manager's unlimited spending authority. That has always been part of the delegation of authority, and it is only allowed if funds are appropriated. Contracts should only be signed if there's sufficient appropriation for general contracts. There are statutory requirements for pre-audit process, essentially verifying that there is money in the bank to cover these expenses. Some roles that have pre-audit function are the finance director, the purchasing manager, and the assistant director of finance. And this just highlights some of those amounts. I'll go through the changes in detail in just a second. There's also a current state of delegation of authority for real estate. That's highlighted here, and probably the most prominent thing of note is that council does not have any authority in this. So let's get to what the proposed changes are and what this option is before you tonight. We would adjust the spending authority for contracts, reduce the manager or deputy manager's authority to only go up to or be limited to a threshold of $750,000. It adds a reporting requirement for all contracts above $300,000 to be reported to council quarterly. In addition, non-capital project real estate transactions over $300,000 would also come before the council for approvals. So just kind of highlight that in here, what the changes are. And specifically, you'll see in the changes in the area of what council has the authority of, and then the limit of $750,000 to the town manager and deputy town manager. So in 2026, to give you a little bit of background or what you could expect to see coming before council with this change in 2026, there have been 26 contracts executed exceeding the $750,000 threshold. So those would now be coming to you starting in after July 1st. We'd expect that to be the same in next year. There have been 5 construction bid awards that have also gone to council during that time. So next steps would be to update the associated standard procedure. We've got to make some updates to tier approval requisition process in Oracle. There would certainly be finance training of staff, and we develop a staff report template for coming to you, and then we would start reporting to the council of anything above $300,000 at Q1 financial reports. So with that, staff recommends that council adopt the revised resolution delegating authority to negotiate, award, approve, and execute contracts and other instruments.
So I just have one ask of you. Could you give the audience or people watching that did not watch the work session an example of why you need authority that we're giving you? What would you need it for?
Specifically the manager or for any
or
staff?
Director or any, why do they need that authority?
To some degree to allow work to be done. I don't want to.
For example?
For example, it could be someone in the Parks Department might need water, or it could be Public Works or something like that, but you establish thresholds that give someone that authority at a certain amount.
To emphasize that, so if you have a water main break, you don't want to have the council convene and have a 6-hour notice time to convene and then approve it so we can fix the water. So that's why we have that authority. Examples like that. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah. Sorry if I didn't.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, because some people are going to go, wait a minute, the last guy spent all this money. Other questions, thoughts, comments?
We have discussed a lot
Yes,
this
we
topic.
have. We've talked a lot about this over the months.
I can put a motion.
Okay.
Can you
I'm sorry.
move the?
I was anticipating a question.
I put a motion that council adopts the revised resolution delegation authority to negotiate, award, approve, and execute contracts and other instruments.
There's a motion?
Second.
And a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Overton. The council will now go into closed session, and I would entertain a motion to do so.
Pursuant to GS 1, oh, did someone else want to?
No, go ahead. I didn't know they were at the seat. Go ahead.
Pursuant to GS 143-318, 11A1, 3, and 6, I move that we hold a closed session to consult with attorneys employed by and/or retained by the town in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorneys and the town, and to prevent the disclosure of information that is made privileged or confidential and pursuant to the laws of the state or not considered a public record within the meaning of Chapter 132 of the General Statute, or is privileged and confidential pursuant to GS 147-64-6, and consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of employment or appointment, or conditions of initial employment of one or more individual public officers or employees.
There's a motion.
Second.
And the second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, and the council will go into closed session at 1:00:35.
Which one?
reconvene our meeting. We have concluded our business. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.